Texas Tower disaster, the most terrifying place to be trapped on Earth. On November 20th, 1983, at 5:36 p.m. CST, two massive shocks rattled the foundations of the Galveston Harbor in Texas. These earthquakes, triggered by an underwater natural gas line ruptured, released enough force to collapse a few oil platforms off the coast. But it was not powerful enough to withstand the most iconic and dreaded structure in the area, the 173-meter-high oil rig called the Texas Tower. This event turned out to be one of the worst accidents of its kind ever recorded, leaving 42 people dead and several others with lifelong injuries. There have been many similar cases throughout history, and even recently, a drilling platform called the Ensco 1017 collapsed, killing 3 people. However, the Texas Tower incident remains the deadliest and most terrifying man-made disaster that has ever occurred in the Gulf of Mexico. So what makes it so terrible? How did the workers die? What mistakes led to this tragic accident? And why does the story of the Texas Tower continue to send shivers down our spines even today? Welcome to my channel. It's time to explore the chilling details of the Texas Tower disaster, the most terrifying place to be trapped on Earth. It all began with an unexpected 7.3 magnitude earthquake, which struck just offshore from Galveston Island in Texas. Although the state is prone to seismic activity, earthquakes of this magnitude are extremely rare. And for the locals, it was definitely out of the blue. Fortunately, the violent tremors only lasted a few seconds, but they were enough to severely damage the foundations of some nearby oil rigs, including the Texas Tower. At the time, the rig was being used as a decompression chamber, allowing divers working on an underwater pipeline to equalize the pressure in their body before It's a standard procedure for deep-sea divers, but one that can be incredibly uncomfortable. The decompression chamber itself is like a metal box. Divers enter after their shift and remain inside until their bodies are ready to be exposed to normal air pressure. When the earthquake hit, many of the divers were still working. Some had just surfaced, while others were making their way back down. In total, there were 54 people aboard the Texas Tower at the time of the quake, including divers, medical staff, and oil rig workers. However, the exact number of people in the decompression chamber during the earthquake will never be known due to conflicting reports and inaccurate records. We do know that some people were able to escape before the chamber collapsed, but we don't know how many. In the immediate aftermath of the disaster, survivors reported seeing a mushroom cloud rising above the water. A Coast Guard helicopter rescue crew arrived on the scene within minutes. But when they got closer, they realized the full extent of the destruction. The tower had collapsed completely, and now nothing but twisted metal could be seen sticking out of the water. There was no sign of life. As darkness fell and night set in, the search and rescue operations were suspended. Teams returned the next morning, hoping to find survivors. But despite the efforts of over 30 vessels and more than 400 people combing through the debris, only 12 survivors were found. 42 people perished in the accident. The youngest victim was only 19 years old. But what caused such a terrible tragedy? You might have noticed that I've referred to the incident several times as a collapse rather than an explosion or other type of catastrophic failure. That's because the disaster was not caused by a sudden catastrophic failure, but by fatigue failure. Fatigue failure is a process by which the strength of a material is reduced by cyclic loading. Essentially, the more a material is used, the weaker it becomes. This effect is not unique to metals and can occur in almost any type of construction, including concrete buildings and wooden bridges. But in the case of the Texas Tower, the repeated stress of daily operations, combined with the harsh marine environment, eventually caused the steel to weaken. When the earthquake struck, the already weakened steel buckled, causing the entire 173-meter-tall structure to collapse into the Gulf of Mexico. Although the initial cause of the accident was not identified correctly, investigations did uncover several contributing factors. One major factor was the lack of maintenance and repair work done on the Texas Tower prior to the accident. According to one report, the tower had been experiencing unusual vibrations since June of 1982, probably due to increased traffic in the port. Vibrations like these should have been investigated immediately, but the owners of the Texas Tower dismissed them as irrelevant, opting instead to focus on more pressing issues. Another issue was the fact that the tower had been built on soft clay soil, which can amplify the effects of earthquakes. Additionally, the tower's design did not include any base isolation features, which could have significantly reduced the damage caused by the earthquakes. Finally, the disaster revealed a systemic problem within the oil and gas industry at the time, a lack of safety culture. Many of the workers interviewed by investigators admitted that safety was not a priority, and that shortcuts were often taken to save time and money. This resulted in a series of small oversights that ultimately contributed to the disaster. So why is the story of the Texas Tower still so terrifying? Well, it comes down to a few key factors. First, the tower was a relatively new structure at the time of the disaster, having been built just for years. Earlier in 1979, this gave people a false sense of security, as they believed that a well-built modern structure would be able to withstand earthquakes of this magnitude. Second, the disaster was not widely publicized at the time, which created a sense of mystery and fear around the incident. People were afraid to talk about it because they didn't understand it. They feared that if they spoke out, they would be blamed for the disaster. Third, the disaster highlighted the fragility of human life. Even in the most advanced and developed countries, earthquakes and natural disasters can strike at any time and cause widespread devastation. Finally, the disaster was not preventable. Even if the owners of the Texas Tower had addressed the vibration issues and invested in proper maintenance, it's unlikely that the tower would have been able to withstand the force of the earthquake. This means that the disaster was not the result of human error, but rather a natural event that tragically resulted in the loss of life. While the details of the disaster may be horrifying, there is hope. In the aftermath of the disaster, the oil and gas industry took steps to improve safety standards and prevent another tragedy of this magnitude. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, was created to ensure that workers are protected from workplace hazards, and the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, was created to investigate transportation disasters. Additionally, the American Society of Civil Engineers, developed new guidelines for the design and construction of offshore platforms to ensure that they are more resistant to earthquakes. Finally, the disaster prompted the development of new technologies that can help us better understand and predict earthquakes. For example, the United States Geological Survey now uses a network of sensors to monitor seismic activity around the country and provide early warnings of potential earthquakes. This system has already helped to save lives and reduce damage in areas that are prone to earthquakes. The legacy of the Texas Tower disaster is a reminder of the power of nature and the importance of safety. While we cannot change the past, we can learn from it and work to make the future safer for everyone. So take a moment to remember the victims of this tragedy and honor their memory by working to create a safer world for all. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more content. If you want to watch another one of my videos, click here. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and see you next time.